raccolte da 100 contrade le più belle legioni del mondo.
Hello, fellow tankers, this is Spider Grenadier, podcasting from European WOT Tanks cluster. Finally, I've made a decision to record a large and detailed review of a full possible technical tree of Italy. Thankfully, after more than 6 years, there's already a lot of info for that extrapolation. It's astonishing, but historical and technical info around Italian tank forces was being collected by WOT Tanks community since the beginning of the project itself. But only the medium tanks line was released not that long ago, and not without issues. A significant part of this job belongs to a Walketten and his volunteer team from North American cluster, which have joined much too late, and only at the start of 2017, so there's already 2 years past. All started with the response for my question in the status report blog, where I was invited to join this community group founded by the help of my friend from European cluster, Arthur Wilsey. He had referred to me during the older status report question and answers release, and unfortunately it's all in the past for now. During this video series we will observe the technical and historical background and other tips of represented potential vehicles, their performance, correlation with the released medium tanks line, and the constructional ideas for each new branch. Other details will be examined later, and we will start from the light tanks line because there are already L640 and Fiat 3000 being presented in the game as some type of a sprout or something, and the most logical move shall be expanding that sprout into a full branch. I do really hope that it is the way we will get it. After facing British cruiser tanks during African Company, Italian army suddenly realized the lack of mobility in their own tank park. They desperately start to develop a symmetrical answer for cruiser tanks such as Crusader as the most decent for Tier 3 in this line, dedicated to an earliest Hayano prototype, which known as Hayano Studio, based on the M1542 chassis with the classical leaf springs. The testbed entered further testing and developing period in 1941-1943. Inspired by encountering T-34 and Kiwi tanks on the Eastern Front, the engineers finally applied sloped armor technology as they do on the latest P-2640 version. Unfortunately, the armor stats remains the same low, 30, 25, 20 for front, side and rear, both for hull and turret. Therefore, the weaponry remains the same after the M5042. It is the tank version of a field gun Berler M35. Many engines were tested, but even the latest one did not satisfy the requirements of performance and reliability. The most notable one is the Fiat A20, 6-cylinder air-cooled aircraft engine from World War I times. It has a maximum output power in 2050 horsepower at 1700 rpm. For World War II Italian tanks, it becomes a satisfying specific power in a 15.6 horsepower per ton for that tank, with a total mass under the 16 tons. But the archaic base and suspension decreases this tank's mobility tragically, leaving only the 44 km per hour top speed. That's why the later version received a Christie suspension. Weaponry correlate with the medium tanks line totally for an earliest Hayano. There are 4732 and 4740 guns with a modest DPM and penetration stats. Later development of the Hayano project by Fiat Ansaldo company involved a new hull and suspension type to meet a technical commission requirements. Also a new engine model was applied, a petrol-fueled Fiat SPA V12 engine with a maximum output power at 275 horsepower. With a mass at 16 tons, this gives us here approximately 17 horsepower per ton specific power. which is outstanding for that period. New Christie suspension evolved speed limit during testing till 55 km per hour with the project engine. Armor scheme changed slightly, although plate's thickness stays the same as for an early prototype. Weapon hasn't changed at all, it's the same ordinary Canon 4740, but there might be alternative project version with an automatic C-102 aircraft cannon, developed in the same 1943 period for an assault plane AC-14. This arrangement would fit the term of a fast close-quarters low-tune battle perfectly as a 4-clip magazine gun. Testing season lasted to the 1943 until the project cancellation. Zaharyan accused unwanted in sight of a concurrent P-2640 and defeat of Italy in African Company, making the fast tank type unwanted for high command. After the capitulation of Italy in 1943 and her division into two sides, the prototype was disassembled for metal and forgotten. Post-war Italy was lacking of a production and engineering resources heavily, so the mid-tiers here, unfortunately, is about readapting the foreign vehicles for own military interests. The most reliable and non-fictional solution for a fifth year is to take the modernized American M24, which was in Italian army service for a long time and in a huge amounts, since they had no own tanks actually for this period. The main difference lies in the potential of mounting a 60mm high-velocity muzzle speed gun prototype, developed in 70s by Otto Breda Company together with Israel Military Industries as an export product. First M24s were equipped in the end of the 70s in the service of Chile army, so potentially Italian army could use this modification as a technology holder for own purposes. While other stats of M24 are quite familiar for World of Tanks, the 60mm HVMS possesses the outstanding performance for both penetration and aiming stats, such as muzzle velocity at 1.6 km per second for an APFS shell. The historical penetration of APFS shell lies at the range of 240 mm at 2000 meters. That's totally insane, and for balance purpose, Wargaming could use Elder Project ammo with as less penetration and aiming of the gun as possible, raising the stats as the level goes up till the top vehicles. This method would make this gun universal for a light tanks branch, which will bound the levels and ease the way to the top of the branch. So the M24 HVMS on 5th year penetration table should be somewhere around 150 for basic AP, 220 for gold AP, and 30 for high explosive, with approximately 90 damage on AP. This will be more than enough. Tier 6 here is the last for this part of video series, and still is a foreign vehicle. This is the gun-armored version of an American APC M113, which is developed in 1961. It's still serving in the Italian army, even nowadays. Otto Milari Company modernized some of these APCs for multiple purposes, such as a mortar or ATGM carrying. The most modern Italian versions are named VCC-1 and 2, which received new hull type and many other technical assets. Some of the documents referring to AT modernized samples for Italian army, and they served as a base for much modern C-13, which we will meet later. So that's why I've included exactly this vehicle. This APC chassis had been extremely popular all around the world, and many attempts for turning it into a light tank were taken. Most often it goes by fitting other tanks to it. So for an Italian M113 MOV, the M24 previous to it might go as a stock one, with a further changing it into a top one with a 90 or 60 millimeters HWMS or Cockerel cannon mounting possibility. This solution might look clumsy, but no doubt it's extremely agile for adapting and closing holes for this branch. Mass of the VCC-1 or M113 flank chassis without turret lies around 10 tons, which with a historical diesel 210 HP engine gives a perfect mobility performance with a 66 km/h top speed. However, the crew lowered to 3 men comparing to 4 at Harianos and M24. Armor protection is complex and depends on the hull version, but it stays poor anyway with a 40 mm limit. This is the end of part 1 of full possible Italian Tech 3 review. Hope you like it. Leave some feedback so I would know should I or shouldn't make other parts. This is Spider Grenadier. Thank you once more.